Everyone, my name is Scott Mangelson. I'm with Armanino Mckenna and our CRM practice leader. Welcome to today's webinar on how CRM improves productivity for finance, IT, and operations. Just a few logistics. I'm going to start with just a few minutes and give those of you that might not be familiar with Armanino Mckenna a quick introduction, and then I'm going to turn it over to our speaker today, Bill Hoffman from Microsoft. To start out, just a little bit about Armanino. We are one of the largest Microsoft Dynamics partners in the Western region. We support Microsoft Dynamics applications including GP, AX, and CRM. We have offices across the Western United States in San Ramon, California, San Jose, San Francisco, and Portland, Oregon, and Bellevue, Washington. We are a division of an accounting and consulting firm. About a third of Armanino's business is in tax, a third in audit, and a third in the consulting group where our Dynamics practice resides. And so today we look forward to speaking with you about how CRM supports the finance and sales organizations, and how the productivity improvements can be made when those two organizations are collaborating with the use of these technologies. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you today Bill Hoffman. Bill is a business development manager and located in the Pacific Northwest. He's had over 10 years of experience in working with sales and finance organizations in how to improve their collaboration and the efficiency and improvements within enterprises across the world. So with that, Bill, I'll turn it over to you, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Scott, for the warm introduction, and thank you all for joining us today. It always sounds funny when somebody introduced me as someone that's dealt with folks for 10 years helping finance and sales collaborate, because it never ceases to amaze me how often they don't. And it's kind of the premise of our call today, and what we want to do is hopefully help you understand the value of opening up sort of the interdepartmental interactions. And as Scott pointed out, CRM is a term here. We're gonna drill down on a little bit, but my idea of CRM is more of a methodology than a technology specifically. So I'm going to expand on that a little bit. This will apply to you whether you're in finance or operations, whether you're a manager across the board, small, large business. We're hoping to show you some value today in our 50-plus minutes together. One of the things that I know is that we're all busy, and I fully expect we'll have enough content here and enough interesting content here to keep you all on for the entire 60 minutes. But what I like to do right away is write these names down, write these emails down. If you have any questions going forward, please feel free to contact us. We love helping businesses learn how to collaborate. That's what we do. Scott's team, my team at Microsoft, we really enjoy it. We have a passion for it. And even if it's just a conversation on how to improve your existing processes or learning from you as customers who do it really well, we'd love to hear from you. So I wanted to get that out there right away. I want to establish some objectives for our call today. So pretty simply, I want to give you a definition of what my acronym for CRM is, and that way it'll help you better understand why we're talking to finance, operations, and IT folks, which is not normally where the CRM vendors out there speak, right? CRM is a methodology, not just a technology, and we'll drill down on that a little bit. Really want to help you understand how automating some of these processes that you never really thought about automating will help you free up time. This whole 60 minutes is going to be about giving you back hours, 18 hours a week, 20 hours a week or a month, excuse me, to do other proactive activities, maybe even more focused to your job and not somebody else's in the organization. We'll also open up your eyes to how sometimes sharing information that we hold so dear to us, especially on the finance side of the house, by sharing that information with the appropriate people helps them do their job better. And by the way, they'll stop bugging you. I am a salesperson. I've been a business development manager for a long time, so I'm allowed to rip on the salespeople. So don't worry about it. If you're a sales guy out there, and I got a few jokes for you, you just bear with me. This is really a finance and operationally driven message here. And then the bottom line is, look, we'd love to come out and talk to you about it. Like I said, whether we can sit down and talk to you about how you collaborate today internally and how those processes really work well for you, or maybe we can whiteboard some ideas on how you can improve those processes and interactions between sales and finance and customer service and marketing. We would love to do that. So we have something called an interaction health check, and Scott and his team will be following up with you and see if you want to just have that conversation. We always learn every day from our customers, and hopefully we have some insight and value that might benefit them. So, let's jump right into it. I think this is going to be obvious, but I'm going to state it anyway. Most organizations that I work with are in the small and mid-sized business. That means less than 500 employees and less than $250 million in revenue. Now, if you go above that, fine, this still applies. But that's really where my team and the organizations I work with play, or will say. We call those small and mid-sized businesses at Microsoft. And what we see when we talk to those organizations every day is sort of a twofold, is twofold. One, they've got 4, 5, 6 different technologies, disparate databases that don't necessarily talk to each other, and we've got each department using their own stuff. And you know what? We've always done it that way. So the fact of the matter is we're used to it. We're used to re-entering data into spreadsheets. We're used to calling IT every time we need a new report delivered to us or data delivered to us. We're used to, as a salesperson, calling the operations team to find out if we have inventory items on hand. You know what? We're used to it. And I guess what we're here to help understand today is that even though we're used to it, it doesn't mean that we can't improve upon it. It doesn't mean that we can't sort of expose some of those things, that internal collaboration that we're not doing well today, and maybe improve upon it and help you guys free up time, again, to focus on proactive activities, activities that are specific to your job title, specific to your role, rather than working on other people's stuff a lot of the time. So from an organization, I think we all have sort of a commonality, right? And as individuals, we have a commonality too, if that's even a word. And the reality is that in my day-to-day, in my experience working with customers on the finance and the sales and the customer service side specifically, they on average have 3 different systems that they have to look in to find information and data, and often repopulate data into multiple systems. They do many hours of that redundant data entry. They have to get IT involved for just about anything that has to do with extracting data. Now, I might be an expert at pivot tables, but for me to get that data extracted, I've always got to go to IT and bother them to continually do that. We know how busy our IT groups are. And as you can see here, and this survey went out to well over 2,200 people that I've spoken to over the last 5 years in delivering this message, look at some of these numbers. 1,215 emails on average in their inbox, right? 75 emails a day, and that's low, a lot of people would say. Phone calls at 14, meetings 3 a day. We're busy, right? We're busy. And this does not include the overwhelming addition now of what we call social networking, right? Whether I'm on a Twitter account or a LinkedIn account or a Facebook account, and how they're merging together with my business. I'm getting emails from everybody. How do I possibly know of the 200 interactions I'm supposed to do today, which 50 are the most important to me as an individual and to our organization? I don't even get to all 200 sometimes. How am I supposed to know that? Well, we need to free up some time. And that's the reality. And the line second from the bottom is one of the keys that we're going to focus on more towards the end of the presentation today. And that is, on average, of these 2,200 plus people that I have interviewed and surveyed for this, they spend 18 hours a month each interacting with each other because they don't have access to data. Okay, so we talked about this already, right? A little bit. The sales folks, is my customer on credit hold? What was the discount we gave them last time? Do we have inventory items on hand? If we don't, do we have them on order? You know, all of these questions that I have to pick up the phone and call somebody to ask. 18 hours per employee per month. You can only imagine if we could give you back 18 hours a month, what you would do with that. How we could do proactive, maybe outbound phone calls to our customers and whatnot. So this is really the fundamental sort of basis of our conversation. I'm going to get into some specific financial and operational processes and workflows that we hope would help you. We're going to get into some specific interaction ideas and data a little bit later here. But what I wanted to do is help us all understand on the phone, whether we're a CEO or whether we're at the front end entering orders, whether we're a salesperson or a marketing person, that we're all dealing with the same primary issues, right? We're all really account managers. We all need access to a contact management system. Name, address, phone number, right? The customers we deal with, the prospects we deal with, our vendors, name, address, phone number. Without this information, we're nothing, right? We're not a business at all. And so one of the things that I really like to express to organizations of small and mid-sized businesses, so hopefully that you fall into that category, is that you have a real leg up over larger organizations, the Fortunes, whatever. Right, the organizations with 10,000 employees or what. I mean, really, if you have 50 employees or 200 employees and you're in one location or two locations, you probably know and have a cross-functional role, right? I'm CEO and Vice President of Sales, or a Vice President of Sales and Marketing, right? Larger organizations have the luxury of having these really specific job titles. Now, they might have to have a little gray area in their roles, but we don't have that luxury in small and mid-sized businesses, right? We already know cross-function. I know as the CEO and the CFO, I know how our AR collection process works in a small business, because you know what? I might even hear those folks making those collection calls in the cube down the hall, okay? We also understand collaboration, even if you don't know it. It goes back to the cross-functional roles, right? We're already used to walking down the hall and talking to a mid-level manager. Well, if I was to try to get to a GM at Microsoft, for example, it would be difficult, right? Yes, we have an open door policy, but the fact of the matter is right, there's just so many people under that person that it's not really possible for them to take that conversation, for us to whiteboard some ideas, to bounce off of each other. So we really have the ability in small and mid-sized business to deal with all people at all levels of the organization, and we really have, whether we like each other or not, established a team environment. Okay? Now, my next question is that are we using the technologies that we have in place? We have Outlook, we have an ERP system from hopefully Dynamics, we have a CRM system, do we have a marketing tool, we have a contact management tool, do we have a operational warehouse tools, right? Are we using these tools that are available to us efficiently and effectively? Right, cross-departmental. I know we're doing it okay within our departments, but are we taking an altruistic look and approach to our business? And that means when I create this email and I send it off to someone, is there anybody else in the organization that would benefit from knowing this information, right? Altruism, thinking of other people before I think of ourselves. And I can hear people's heads shaking on the phone right now going, come on, Bill, I'm already overwhelmed. I can't think of everybody that needs access to this information. And you're right. You're right. That's what we expect technology to do and help us with. Okay, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. So today it's the me generation. Today is my Facebook page says I am working by my swimming pool right now, right? Me. Youth today and social networking isn't really used as an altruistic tool. It is to a certain extent, but not to the extent that I would like to see it. And I think I would like to see that change. And everybody's hearing about social networking, social networking, social networking. And what's funny is that the consumers out there, right, have completely leapt over businesses. And what I mean by that is when I want to go to a movie, or when I want to research some tennis shoes, or I want to research a car, or I want to decide what kind of golf clubs I want to buy, every bit of information I could possibly want is available to me when I go to Bing and I type it in and I go look. Every bit of information I really need to make an informed decision. But when it comes to our business, I don't give people access to the information. I hoard it. I don't want to share it. I'm afraid they'll do bad things with it. Right? I'm not saying open up all systems to all people. That's not what we're saying. But what we're saying is let's go ask that salesperson what data we could expose to them without them having to call us to do their job better, to close sales faster, okay? And free up time for me on the finance and operational side. What you're seeing on the screen right now is really my Nirvana. You can see its Outlook around the outside, and on the inside you can see I've got a list of all of my phone calls and appointments that I have with companies. I've even got a nice slick dashboard that tells me how many appointments I have, and then personally my system has a grading system. I grade my tasks, A, B, C, D, F, and I know that I need to get all my A's and B's done today. You can see down the left-hand side within my Outlook, I have access to marketing information, to sales information, to service information, to invoicing, to payables, to receivables. I have all that access through one central repository of information. So this is what we're looking for, right? Whether it's a technology or a methodology, it's centralizing this information for people. Okay? And people are the center of our universe. And this is back to what I said in the beginning. This, to me, is the definition of CRM. So forget what you know or think you know about CRM, because if I asked most of you on this call, you would probably say, well, it's sales and marketing software. And I wouldn't disagree the way most people are out there selling it. But the fact of the matter is that the basis of what we call CRM today is contact management. Name, address, phone number, email address. That critical contact information that if I don't have a business. And then around that is calendaring and our ability to communicate with these people and track those communications against people, against accounts, against support cases, against AR invoices, against AP invoices, right? So those interactions and communications that we have with those people is also central to what my definition of CRM is. And then there's process, of course. Is there a way for me to automate some of these processes, like how we collect cash, how we handle credit applications, how we do our purchasing within these systems, so that these communications can be automated with these people that are critical to the center of my business? Because everything else around it, our customer service, our operational teams, our general ledger, our AP, our AR, our targeted marketing, our selling, our warehouse stuff is all transactional. Right? Without those core, without our target, right, we couldn't do our jobs efficiently. So that to me is the definition of CRM. That to me is, get rid of the C in CRM. It's RM. It's relationship management. It is handling every interaction we possibly can to the best of our ability, effectively, efficiently, and sharing it with the people that can use it to do their job better also. That is the definition of CRM. So in my opinion, and by the way, look, this is all my humble opinion. Nothing here is original thought. Everything that I am delivering to you today, I'm just passing along as a pay it forward. Someone has taught me this. So the reality is that someone once taught me that communication is the foundation of my success, right? It's whether how I approach my communication, clarity of how long my emails are, how short they are, how the outcome of my communications and my interactions is the foundation of my success. The more I can do, the more effectively I can do them within a day, whether it's business or personal, the better off I am. Okay? Or no communication at all sometimes. And then the commitment that I have made, and the commitment that a lot of us can make, especially as things only get worse with more tweets coming at us and more Facebook stuff coming at us and more of these systems migrating together and more smartphones and tablets, and we're carrying all this stuff with us, is to use the technology and a mindset that allows us to make sure the top 50 interactions I have to do today float to the top. Okay. So take a deep breath, Bill. Sorry, I get kind of passionate. Well, I'm not sorry, but I get kind of passionate when I talk about this because I've seen this kind of mindset and I've seen these kind of changes in organizations make a difference, right? So whether it's the technology you're using today or adding technology to complement this or using a business partner to help you analyze processes, it works and it helps. And it doesn't matter if you're in finance or operations either. For years, people have told you, well, you don't need CRM. You don't get the benefit of CRM. Nobody's ever even tried to sell you on the concepts of CRM, when shame on them. To me, it's the core of everything you do also. All right? So we talked about this also a little bit. We're dealing with the human experience. We're dealing with a kind of, well, we've always done it that way, so we don't know what's good and bad. We don't know that re-entering data into a spreadsheet after an email came in from our website and then emailing that information onto somebody else who's going to type it into a system or write it down on an order form and put it in a box for us to enter into a system. We don't know that that's bad or that there's better ways of doing it necessarily. We've done it, we're efficient at it, we're good at it, it's locked and loaded. So it's kind of hard to think outside, I'm not going to say the box, but to think outside of those processes that you think are working. So sometimes getting a fresh set of eyes on it to discuss it is a good way to talk about this. And we're going to focus on many of these in our last 35 minutes together here or so. So whether you're still doing collections from printed out reports, right? Whether you're re-entering data, whether your vendor relationships and your contract, your contracts with your vendors, your suppliers, and everybody else are still paper behind your desk. Whether you have these processes in place, which I know many of you do, right? What we want to do is come out and talk to you about, what if, and hear from you what's really working for you well, and maybe what's not. So let's get into the meat of this a little bit. Okay, I've kind of rambled on. I got on my soapbox a little bit about definitions, about CRM, about how we can kind of take an altruistic approach to our team and our organization, even though we do have all of this, these communications just sort of whipping around us. And I don't want to use the word overwhelmed, right? That's a mindset. But certainly feeling like 10 years ago, I only had, phone calls to worry about and maybe a smattering of emails. And now I'm lucky if I can get to the phone calls. My voicemail box, fills up, right, often, and I certainly cannot get to all of my emails. Okay. Now, I can only because I have the technology at my fingertips and a process tied to it that allows me to keep no more than 20 emails in my inbox by the end of the day. And allows me to get to my phone calls and whatnot, and hopefully I can help share some of that with you today also. So let's talk about some specific processes. Now bear with me, right? We have a wide variety, we have a large audience, and we have a wide variety of roles here, okay? So I'm going to ask you to bear with me. Not every one of these processes applies specifically to you. That's not what this is about, right? This is an altruistic approach, and what that means is oh, wait a minute, if we can automate this process, how many other people might it benefit? Okay, so I'm going to go through some scenarios here, and you'll also see as I walk through them, oh, wow, we could use that for this, or we could use that for that, or this, or that. And I think that as I deliver this presentation to many people, they all come up to me and say, oh, man, we could use that for our XYZ. All right, so let's start with the credit application process. So some of you might not give terms to your customers. Okay, I get it. Some of you might not even sell products. Okay, I get it. But let's follow through this process today. Today it is me. Tomorrow it is us, and that's sort of our theme today. So as it works today, let's say we're a heavy equipment manufacturer. Okay. Now on the front end, we're the sales and operational folks. Most of you folks on this call, you're not involved in the front end stuff, right? You're not involved in all the marketing that's going out to these Caterpillar and John Deere dealers, right? You're not aware of all that stuff necessarily. And the salespeople are out there selling, and they're trying to sell your dump trucks out to these organizations. And they go through this long sales cycle, or a short one, doesn't really matter. But all that stuff's kept in their system out there, right? They're selling software, whatever they're using. They're keeping that stuff out there. That doesn't really interest us necessarily in finance and operations. But when they get to the point of their customers needing credit from us, right, needing terms from us, this is the process as I've seen it today. All right, so sales goes out and searches for a credit application somewhere. And then they put together this email that says, hey, Joe, fill out this credit app, and we'll get you $200K in terms, and we'll start that placing that first order, okay? Now, what happens when a salesperson just puts an email together that says, hey, fill this out, and we'll get back to you, and sends it, is that credit application 7 out of 10 times comes back incomplete. It just does. In my experience with talking with tons and tons of financial and sales folks, it comes back incomplete, and it comes back into the salesperson's inbox, and then what do they do with it? They forward it on to finance, and they say, hey, this is tied to this prospect. Please, approve them for credit so we can place an order. Hurry up. We only have 3 days left at the end of the month, right? Well, finance, when they dig it out of their 1,200 emails, right, opens it up, reads it. It's incomplete. What do? They send it back in an email back and says, hey, this is incomplete. Then the salesperson says back to the customer, says, hey, I need you to complete all this stuff. It doesn't have a franchise tax ID. You didn't even sign it at the bottom, and I need one more reference from you. Can you please take care of that? Right? Okay, great. So now finally it comes back to the salesperson complete. They forward it again after they find it in their 1,200 emails. They forward it again to the finance person, right? And then finance does their diligence, checks their DMB, does whatever, and then approves or declines this customer for or prospect for terms, and then they re-enter them into the ERP system, right? Retype them, Acme Truck Lines, Joe Smith. They create a customer ID, then they got to create an email, send it back to the salesperson, say, hey, customer ID ABC is now a customer in the ERP system. We approved them for $100,000 in terms. You can go ahead and place your orders. Salesperson calls back or enters the order, all right, in the system, and that is a very long, convoluted process. Okay. You know, if they filled out the credit application right the second time, we're still looking at a dozen emails buried in our inboxes and buried in our siloed inboxes, right? I'm not sharing that information with anybody unless I have an existing communication sort of system that I store emails in against the prospect that everyone has access to, okay? So I guess what I'm saying is let's open our eyes to how technology can help that. So if I'm that same salesperson and I'm using this front-end system for my opportunity management, and I go in and all I do is click a little checkbox that says request credit, you can see in the middle of the screen there. Okay. So what that does is the system automatically triggers an email to the prospect. It opens it up for us, and I'll show you that in a second. It creates a follow-up call in my calendar, in my Outlook for the salesperson the next day to follow up and call and see if they need any help filling out the form. And it might even ping finance with a little task saying, hey, this customer's applying for credit. We only got 3 days left towards the end of the month. If you have a free couple of minutes, could you run their DMB in advance? Whatever your process is, this was all initiated by the salesperson clicking one button, request credit. Okay. You can see here from the front end look at it, I've got an open phone call to follow up on the credit application, and I have an open task highlighted in the yellow there that telling finance that this customer is applying for credit. I don't have to go find these in my CRMs, in my Outlook. These are not emails being sent to me. This is not about alerts or more emails. This is about reducing that stuff. This goes on my calendar, and it just simply reminds me, and I can close it out or not. Right? So we talked about when that person clicked that request credit, right? The email that popped up is detailed. It doesn't just say, hey, fill this out. It says, this is exactly what you filled out. Why? Because we had to create the template once. And the template includes the most current credit application on it so the salesperson doesn't go have to look for it. And that information gets sent out and stored in our communication management system against that prospect. So finally now the chances of that credit application coming back complete with that email with detailed instructions versus the hey fill this out email go up exponentially. I bet it completely flip-flops. Now 7 out of 10 are coming in complete. Not always, but 7 out of 10 are coming in complete. We also covered our rear ends legally because we told them what we're going to do with the credit application once we get it. Okay. And now when that flows through and that alert pops up on the finance team's desktop and says, hey, the credit application is in the customer document library, they go in, they open it, not emails, they go in, they look up Acme Truckline, they look in the document library, they open their credit application, they see it approved, and then they push submit once they've approved them. And it creates the Dynamics GP customer for them and the customer number, and the workflow can trigger off an email to the salesperson automatically saying, hey, they've been created and here's their customer number. Okay. So we've taken a potential 2-hour, 4-day process, if people are good at following up with their emails, to a potential total 35 or 40-minute, well-documented process quite simply, quite easily. And now you can imagine, think through, right? Not credit applications, think through contracts, think through negotiations with vendors, think through whatever it is, think through birthday cards. I don't care, whatever it is when we want an automatic engagement with a customer by an action. That's one example. Here's another example. This might be, next to generating net new business, this might be the single most important thing we do, is collect cash, right, into the organization. We build our business around budgets and the volume of cash that's coming through our AR aging, right? I mean, we know what money's coming in. We know what payroll is. We know all of these things. We know our marketing budget was 100K. We know all of this stuff. But without collecting this cash into the organization, now again, I know some of you, if you're cash-only business, this doesn't apply, but you'll still get the concept. How do we collect that cash faster? How do we make it more efficient? Because right now it is still email-driven and siloed, okay? Siloed. It's funny, I show the screenshot and have been for many, many years, and I kind of thought it would wear off eventually, but CFOs, directors of finance, they love this. This is a trial-aged balance report. Basically, it is a past due invoice report with a coffee stain on it and some notes from our AR collections staff. And look, I know many systems, including Dynamics GP, have a collections module. It's amazing to me how many people still print out this report and do it manually. Okay. Even if you're using, whether you're using another ERP system or one of ours, the fact of the matter is that even if you are using that module within the collections module within AR, the fact of the matter is it's siloed again, isn't it? I'm not sharing any of that information. I don't have automatic follow-up tasks in my Outlook and appointments in my Outlook to allow me to have that central calendar. Remember the people, communications, and process, right? One calendar, one place that shows me I have 5 collection calls today, and they're going to take 15 minutes each on average. One place where I can set up a follow-up call with, I call Joe Smith. He's 90 days past due on his $9,000 bill. He picks up the phone. He says, no, I think you double invoiced me, but I'm really busy right now. Call me back Friday. Click, right? Or, is that acceptable to most AR reps? No. But do they have a system right in front of them that allows them to say, hey, pull up your Outlook bill. Are you available at noon on Friday? Cool. And right-click on that, create an Outlook invite, send it off, and it's stored where? In my central system, my central repository of information, whether I'm in sales or finance or operations, and that is the methodology of CRM. So if an invoice goes past due in your GP system, and maybe we want to tweak this process, right? Only if their invoices of greater than $500 or whatever that is. We want that to create a follow-up phone call, as you can see on the screen right here. Look all the way to the left. I've even given them a grade of A because it is one of the most important things we do. So as an AR clerk now, all of my stuff is here. So that credit application I have to check on, it's here, right? That report I have to run and pivot the data for our finance manager, it's here. Right, that analysis I have to do on the cost of our raw materials, I set aside an hour for myself on my calendar, that's here. I know what the top 50 things are I need to get done today, and now I have a system that will allow me to do it. So I can now drill down to a specific company, which you're seeing on the screen now. We're in the demonstration company with their 4 different invoices, right? We all know it's not about one invoice. We have multiple invoices across companies, and we want to be able to see all that information. I can drill down to the actual invoice itself. Now, if somebody just calls in and they have a quick question about an invoice, right, do I have to drill all the way down through into the ERP system, or could I go to my interaction management system, could I use CRM methodology, and could I just go in and see that information and data there and resolve their issue? Yes, I could. In many cases, yes, I could. Okay. What you're seeing on this screen here is this is my ability to easily, with one right click, create a follow-up appointment integrated to my Outlook with that person I'm collecting cash with. So we build that into our process. It's no longer call me Friday because the chances I'm going to get a hold of that person Friday are 0. It's now, hey, they've accepted an Outlook invite on their calendar at 11:30, and I've set aside some time to research to see if we did in fact double invoice that company and collect this money faster. Oh, by the way, my salespeople know about these interactions. Okay, this is that altruistic thought process, right? Most financial people don't know that twofold. Number one, in lots of organizations, salespeople can help collect cash. Because if they've got an order in hand and the customer's on credit hold, they want that resolved, right? It's all about their commissions. It's all about money in their pocket. They're the best ally you could ever have if they've got an order in hand. Also, we need to share that data with them, honestly, because as a salesperson, if I'm out trying to sell to an existing customer and they're 90 days past due and I don't know it, I can't sell to them anyway. So it's kind of shame on the organization for not sharing that information for me, because now I'm not able to prioritize my opportunities. And I'm working on longer sales cycles because I don't have the information in front of me that I need to close business faster. Much like we want the ability to do collections faster, I want the ability to focus on my top 50 opportunities that are going to close as fast as possible to, yes, put commission in my pocket, but to, yes, build the revenue in the organization. That is information that is never shared because why? It's stored on the invoice in our little AR collections module, siloed away from everybody else. Okay. Let's talk about vendor relationships here a little bit. You go into your CFO's office and you say, hey, when was the last, well, maybe you wouldn't say it that way. Say, ma'am or sir, or however you approach them, and you say, I would love to see your last analysis on your telecom. Okay, we all have 800 numbers, we all pay phone bills, right? We all have mobile phones for our sales staff, maybe, most of us do, or service staff, whatever that is. You know, let's do an analysis on our telecom because our contract's coming up with you know, the phone company, XYZ, whoever that is. Can you get me that information? And it never fails that that person picks up the phone and calls their admin, or they turn around and they go into a file folder behind their desk and try and find the latest contracts. Okay, you know, that is what it is. So ask yourself, where is that information, and can you, at any level of the organization, access it quickly, right? Why bother the admin when I could go look up AT&T and right there in their document library see our latest contract with them? Oh, and by the way, the analysis of our that we did with the CFO and the director of IT on our costs of our 800 numbers. Right there underneath that company. Okay. So how do you determine who your most important vendors are? Now, in many cases, right, I'm sure that you do it by, you know, who delivers the best product to us at the cheapest price, right? But are we actually tracking all of the communications and support and training and assistance that we deliver back to that organization and what it's costing us, right? No, because we're kind of disconnected, aren't we? We're using purely financial data in many cases to determine whether or not that is the best relationship we have. Same thing with customers, and I'll get to that in a little bit. All right. How do your purchasing agents track the negotiations on raw materials? And how do they track, you know, when you are negotiating for a new phone contract, or you are negotiating for better prices on laptops, or whatever that is, where is that information kept? It's siloed in that person's Outlook email box, right? And that's just the way we do business today. It's always the way we've done it. So again, if we go back to our concept of CRM, if we go back to our target, if we go back to our methodology, right, you know, why would I not in the same system have all of my suppliers and vendors with all of their names, addresses, and phone numbers? Well, I would. You know, and would I be able to drill down on that one particular phone company in this case and go see all the communications, the emails that our purchasing agent has had with them and have access to that information, the support information that our education team has been delivering to this organization, the marketing funds that we've been giving them, you know, to help promote our products and our co-marketing, you know, our co-branding initiative that we decided with them last year. It's all here, right? This central repository, this you know, relationship management system, communication management system, whatever we want to call it, and my ability to store those contracts, right? And this looks familiar to you. You know, you probably recognize SharePoint. I'm not sure if all of you use SharePoint or not, but one of the things I see in small-sized, mid-sized businesses is that I see SharePoint sites everywhere, everywhere. And that's okay, but they're hard to find. So if I can go through this central repository and I can go right down and drill down in on the account called the phone company, and I can click on document library, and it can bring me up to their SharePoint site that has my 2012 phone contract in it, that has my 3-year cost proposal from the phone company in it, and that has our last telecom cost analysis in it, would that be beneficial? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because now we're digging to find the information, and in most cases, we're picking up the phone, calling somebody else in the organization to find it for us. You know, and I'm sorry, I could go through I'm not sorry, but I could go through hundreds of these examples, right? And I know that since they don't all apply to everyone on the phone, each of you are going, well, big deal, Bill. It only took my administrative assistant, you know, 3 minutes to get that for me. Big deal, Bill. It only took the IT guy, you know, 4 minutes to get it for me. Times hundreds and hundreds of interactions, folks. I know in the moment, in the now, in the me world, right, that one interaction only takes them 3 minutes. But if I ask them to do 300 of those interactions this year, that's 900 minutes. You do the math. Those are hours that that person can have back, that that person can be focused on their objectives, on their job. And it didn't cost me anything. It didn't cost me anything to go in and get that information myself because I'm sitting there waiting for it anyway. Okay? So here's an interesting concept for you also. All right, so we've gone through some processes. Now again, credit application, AR collections, AP vendor management. We didn't drill down on purchasing processes. We didn't drill down on internal case management processes. We didn't drill down on contract management and processes. We didn't drill down on project management and processes there, right? But you can imagine, right? Just so they all have the core functional similarity of people, communication, process, right? And then we need a technology wrapper. They've all got them there. And if we have that one central repository that allows me I don't have to retype stuff into a system, right? The emails get stored. When I send an email as a purchasing agent off to the phone company to negotiate phone contracts, it gets stored under the phone company. It doesn't cost me. I have to drag and drop it anywhere. I don't have to double click on it. I don't have to copy and paste it in. It happens. Okay, it happens. And that is a strong CRM methodology. So who are your best customers? So I ask many financial folks and sales folks this question often, and their answer is quite simple. It's revenue, right? It is how much stuff did they buy from us last year, right? And a lot of the times they might be able to figure out profitability, meaning they know what it cost us to build their product or service, and they know what labor it cost us against the services provided, right? So what was the pure profitability of the customer? You know, that's a financial component too, and with a little bit of IT's help, well, a lot of IT's help maybe in some cases, we can see the profitability margins of that customer, okay? But it really stops there many times. And it stops there because we don't have that human capital element. We're not using the CRM methodology. We're not using our altruistic approach to our customers also. And that is, they not only buy stuff from us, right? But this company consumes 90 phone calls a year for us to do collections with them. Okay? And they're 90 days late every month. And if I could put that money, reinvest that money in our organization, for goodness sakes, if I could reinvest that money in a bank and get 0.5% on it, right, that's more money for me than it is costing us to call this organization over and over and over to get them to pay. Often we find when we do this analysis that our biggest customers are also the ones that have the highest turnover rate and that are sapping us of support resources. So do we know that we spent 200 support and training hours last year, and it cost us on average $31 an hour to do that? You know, are we factoring that money in to the value of this customer? Well, no, because we have these siloed systems, right? We have these systems that don't really easily allow us to figure that out. Right? Now, I'm not saying that we need to get down to, look, tie the exact payroll down to every exact individual per hour rate and then divide it by the exact number of hours that we spent with that customer. Look, I'm a realist also. I've been in the software world for a long time, you know, and, you know, to get exact, which is, you know, financial people want exact. They want 0.00. in those fields. But if I know our support personnel average $17 an hour, right? You know, in these instances, it's a whole lot closer than what we're using today. So we're not talking rocket science here. We're really not. We're talking about tying the systems together, integrating the systems together, making sure that you have that central repository, that communication management system tied to those transactional, financial, operational, sales, marketing systems, and then being able to reference back and analyze that data. So you can see on this one screen for this one particular customer, right, we've got all activities I've got highlighted in blue. So we've got a past due invoice follow-up call. We've got an AR invoice that its due date was populated. We have an AP check that was processed and distributed out to this organization. Now, look, I am showing you everything all on one screen. Do you not want to show this stuff to some people? I get it. I get it. Easily hidden, right? Security levels in softwares today are outstanding. Okay? But we're still going back to the fundamental basis, and that is people. That is our interactions with people. And that is evaluating and streamlining the processes that way too many people are involved when it's unnecessary doing manual things. Okay? And then it's giving our employees a central repository to go to for this kind of information. This is Nirvana, right? I've got my calendar. I've got my sales information. I've got my marketing information. I've got my support cases all here underneath this customer. We can certainly put a cost against it, and we know the value of this customer on top of just what they're buying from us. Right? So let's think about it from this way. I know financial folks, which many of you are, really, really, really like numbers, right? So, as we come down towards the last 12 minutes or so of our presentation today, let's put some numbers into this thing, and then I'm going to drill down onto some more and some interaction of data. Right? We haven't gotten to that point yet. I know we've talked process primarily today, but the interaction of data and stuff that with GP and CRM you get out of the box, but that might exist already with systems you have today. Let's talk about this for a real quick second. All right. So this might be high, this might be low, I don't know. But let's put a $60,000 a year number on these employees. We work 2,000 hours, right? That's $30 an hour. You adjust up or down however you want with these employees. In my findings, again, with those 2,300 individuals that we've surveyed while doing this presentation, 25 to 30% of their time is spent either doing redundant work, helping other people, or just trying to find stuff. Right? So, that's 10 hours a month, right? No, 10 hours a week. That's a lot of time. If we could cut that down, so really, let's put a labor number against it. $18,000 per employee is committed to searching for stuff or helping other people internally when that could be fixed. So that's a real number. That's a real number. Do I want to reinvest that time, the labor I'm paying out for that person, to go find information for another person because we choose not to expose that data to that person? That adds up month after month, day after day. It adds up. If we can reduce it to 15%, right, we've got $9,000 per employee from a labor cost that we can repurpose. Right? So if you want to put this in hours or dollars, it doesn't matter. But do you now, in this time of communications and tweets and all of these other things coming at us, do you have time to pick up the phone and thank your customers for their business? Do you have time to send them birthday cards? Do you have time to send them handwritten notes? Okay? And, look, that's a philosophical thing. I've seen it work. You may believe it works or not. From a sales perspective, the handwritten note, amazing. Amazing. Most of the salespeople I talk to don't have time. They don't make the time. So let's free up some time for them. Let's free up some time and into proactive activities. All right. I didn't see a lot of IT folks on the call, but I'm going to run through this one real quick anyway. All right, this is your internal staff. So, Bill Hoffman calls IT or sends an email to IT and says, man, I used my DVD player as a cup holder and it broke off. Right, so what do? They turn around, they write it on a whiteboard behind their desk, or they put it in a spreadsheet, or they might have a completely disconnected system internally that they use for case management is what we call it. Well, why wouldn't we use our same central repository of information to track those cases, to track our IT team and what they're working on so we can be as efficient as possible? Because if we can free up time for IT, right, we already talked about the amount of burden we put on them to capture data for us for reports, didn't we? All right, we talked about that. But if we can free up time in the same central system, this isn't a different system, this is the same system that everyone else is using, we're all on the same page, and now I have an IT case management system that allows me to create cases, resolve cases quickly, and we can analyze what it's costing us to support our own internal staff from an IT perspective. All right. And with some other cool tools, obviously, Link being one of them. Soon, Skype integration in Microsoft. One of the again Nirvanas I have at working at Microsoft is that I open Outlook, it's integrated with CRM, I double click on Scott Mangelson at Armanino, and you know what? I right click and I hit call and it calls him. It's just so cool. It's so awesome, it's so easy, and many of you have these solutions in place already. We're just not tying them all together. Okay. So we talked about process, We talked about removing the C from CRM and calling it relationship management. We talked about building an altruistic approach to each other in our organizations. Okay? Now let's talk about some of the data that we can expose to help everyone's job be faster, and I talked about being able to rip on salespeople before, because look, we call financial folks bean counters, we call them the sales prevention team, and the finance team calls us, well, we're always on the golf course, we only care about money, we don't care about anybody else, we're lazy, right? There's this consternation between sales and finance in lots of organizations because they're very different, and the fact of the matter is that it has something to do with systems, and this is going to sound odd, but it has something to do with systems. The accounting team doesn't want to give access to the accounting software to sales, and I get it. We don't want them messing with SKUs and entering orders, and you know what? They're going to mess it up. We don't want that. But is there any reason they can't see the data that they need to be able to place an order immediately? Right? Is there any reason that our marketing team can't see the payables invoices that their vendors got paid with when they updated our website, or when they paid somebody for an email list to do a great marketing piece from, or they outsourced somebody to build a brochure for us? We want to know they got paid before we call them back and sell it to them. Is there any reason I can't see that, AP? Well, yeah, because I don't share it right now from a financial perspective. And two, what do I got to do? I got to pick up the phone and call you in finance. I got to waste your time. I don't want to waste your time. I want to find the information and move on, just like I'm binging it. Okay. You can see a list of all of the different interactions that we have potentially, and some of the hundreds of things that we could have added to our discussion today from a process perspective. Whether it's our R&D team building our products and services, getting feedback from marketing and sales, they don't do that today unless we pull them off into a room. Right? But what if they were working from the same communication management system? What if the emails with the feedback from our customers were stored underneath that customer and tied back to a specific product? What if we had the ability to capture that information? We do. We do. And we haven't really even touched on customer service and where they're kind of that tweener, right? They kind of have access to accounting, they kind of have access to sales, and they bridge the gap, and they get abused the most from customers and internal employees. So really freeing up internal organizational-wide access through a central repository of information we call relationship management, tied back to your financials, tied back to your operational systems, tied back to your Outlook and your email. Okay. So would it benefit your financial team if this was possible? I'm a salesperson. I go in. I'm going to create a quote. I want to create an order. As soon as I open this manufacturing company, it throws up an alert that says the account's on credit hold. What's the difference here? The difference is when I'm on the phone placing an order with a customer and it throws up a "this is on credit hold," right then and there I can get the financial folks on the phone and say, hey, we need to resolve this credit issue so they can pay down their terms, or whatever reason is that they're on credit hold. Resolve the issue now on the phone. What's happening today is that I'm going into my system, I'm entering a quote in my system which is disconnected, or I'm writing down a quote on a piece of paper and passing it off to finance, and then guess what? An hour later I get an email in my 1,200 emails that says, hey, these guys are on credit hold, they can't place this order. Or even worse, let's say they want to place a $10,000 order, but they only have $2,500 left in terms, so they're not even on credit hold yet. But I don't have access to that information, even though I could resolve it the first time on the phone with the customer. So shame on us for not exposing that data and making it available. Is this customer on credit hold? What is their credit limit? What are their terms? Now, if you don't want to expose it, you don't have to. But if we ask the salesperson what they need to close business up front, and we asked the finance people how frequently they were calling them for what information, and we met in the middle, and we realized that it was already available to us in integrated CRM and GP, why wouldn't we expose that information? We would. We would. What about quantities on hand? Now, again, if you don't have products, this doesn't apply. Quantities on hand, quantities on order. So when I'm on the phone with somebody, I don't have to drill down or call the warehouse. I can see in real time if I have quantities on hand and if I don't, when they're expected to be in, and resolve that issue the first time on the telephone. Now, normally customer service can do that, but sales can't. So it's an extra phone call. It's an extra email, right? What about it gets big red bold letters when I run out of inventory? Look, we can do tons of stuff, but the key here is that interaction management. Right? And actually the last slide before I get to that is creating sales orders, turning this to invoices in GP, creating, and reversing that invoice and exposing that invoice in your central repository of information that we call CRM. So that data is exposed. I can't edit that as a salesperson, but I certainly know if this person's on hold, if they're backed up on payments, what the problem is. I know who the account rep is working on it in finance, so if I get them on the phone, we can resolve the issue the first time by exposing the appropriate amount of data. All right, I realize I'm running up against my time here, so what I want to do is go over a few last slides and please encourage you to reach out to us. All right, number one, do you know if you already own Dynamics GP or one of our Dynamics ERP solutions, Advanced Management, you already own what we call the server, which is the functionality that we exposed today and more. And I'm going to show you why and what the more is, right? You already own it. Yeah, you need to add users. Certainly you need to talk to Armanino about whether it's a good fit or not. Okay. Remember, a lot of these processes and changes that we talked about can be applied without additional technology. Right? We still want you to engage in an interaction health check with us. We still want to help you regardless. Okay? Armanino is an expert in understanding the cross-functional collaboration of finance, sales, marketing, and customer service. All right. So let's take advantage of their gracious offer to do these health checks with our business, because it can only help. It can't hurt. So we redefined CRM at the beginning of our conversation today. All right? And what we haven't talked about at all, right, is the typical stuff. Salesforce automation, marketing automation, case management, the knowledge base, the alerts, the dashboards, the workflows, how easy it is to customize. We didn't talk about any of this stuff. Our focus today was what? Our focus was CRM for finance and operations, and it was about an altruistic approach to us sharing information to help everybody do their job better and in turn help our customers. So we want you to take this evaluation. We want you to talk with Scott when he calls. We want you to understand that we can uncover some of these manual processes and, again, help with the technology you have in place today. You know what? They may suggest technology be added. We don't know, but it can only be of value to you. So here's my Nirvana CRM with all my interactions against all of my finance, operations, sales, marketing, customer service information in one place within my Outlook. I get to live this every day, and I hope that's something that you would want to do also. So I hope we met our objectives today. I wanted to redefine CRM and the concepts of CRM for you. Wanted you to understand that you can be passionate about sharing communications across your entire organization and how automating some of these processes like credit applications and AR collections and our purchasing processes and our vendor management processes can help everybody, customer service, sales, our finance team, and we can take back our lives, take back 18 hours a month to do more proactive activities focused on our jobs and our objectives. Right? Hoping to open up your eyes to the importance of that data sharing, those concepts we talked about. And when we call you in the next 24 to 48 hours, when Scott calls you, when somebody from Armanino calls you, pick up the phone. Give us feedback, if nothing else, on the webcast and whether it was of value for you today. It's very important to us. We want to continue delivering good content, good value for you today. And here's our contact information again, please. I know it's a lot of information. I know it's a little bit overwhelming, but we want to come out. We want to talk to you about this. Write our email address down. Write our phone number down. And you have a wonderful afternoon. We wanted to close it out with a thank you for spending your lunch hour with us. And I look forward to speaking to each and every one of you, or a high percentage of you anyway, about your business and how we might be able to help you.
Hey, Bill, Bill, thank you. Yeah, this is Scott. I just wanted to thank you very much for your time. I wanted to make just one note there. You can see on the phone number there under my contact information, there's an extra 3 added at the end. So the last 4 digits should be 2667. So,
my bad. Not
a problem. Just wanted to make sure that if anyone was interested in calling, I'd be there. And I'll look forward to following up with each of you and hearing if you've got any other questions about the webinar today. But thank you very much, and have a good afternoon.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.